But let's focus on future supply. In the case for a chat here being, analysts are pretty bullish on the logistics companies. The stock has gained a good 3% in the month of March. It was down 5% all of 2019. So let's try and figure out what really is the future course of action. Mayur Toshniwal, the MD of the company, joins us on the show right now. Mayur, hi, morning. Post GST, are you seeing inquiries for contract logistics business increase, which means businesses can increase drastically in the coming years? Can one assume that?
Yes, I think GST has provided that impetus for customers or potential customers trying to revisit their supply chain model. So yes, we are indeed seeing increased inquiries, increased interest actually in exploring newer and the latest supply chain and the more efficient supply chain models. But obviously some of these transformations are not going to be overnight. It is going to take time. I think India has worked with some of these existing supply chain models for decades and decades. So it's not going to bring about a change overnight, but it's nevertheless an extremely positive change. And I feel that over the next 3 to 5 years, the increase in the 3PL and the contract logistics segment is going to be substantial.
Right. So, is introduction of GST a blessing for the logistics sector that led to a shift from unorganized to organized, you would say?
I have been very vocal about it. I think GST has been an extremely important and a positive development in otherwise a sector which has been relatively languishing. So if you look at the growth rate also in the logistics sector in India, 7 to 8% growth over the last 5 years is nothing really worth talking about, and especially in a country which is probably one of the most inefficient as far as logistics is concerned. And I think GST has been that, if I have to single out one activity or one particular thing, I think it has been GST. I think we have been a nation which used to tax movement of material from one state to another, thereby making the overall supply chain very, very fundamentally inefficient, extremely fragmented and inefficient. I think GST and along with it the e-way bill, I think is now an opportunity to bring in efficiencies in the supply chain. So yes, I think going forward we will see a lot more efficiencies coming in.
Right, now with the foray in the foods category, will that lead to a decline in your margins in the near term? Do you think that the volumes from this segment in the future will make up for the profits in the coming years?
Yes, as far as FSC is concerned, I think food and FMCG has been a segment which has been relatively underpenetrated at our end. While we have been present, but if you look at the overall consumption basket in India, I think more than 51% comprises of food. And food being large volume, lower in value, if you purely look at from supply chain spend point of view, the supply chain spend needs to be something like 70 to 80% of any 3PL company. And we recognize that food is an important opportunity. It's a large scale thing. So yes, the margins would have been relatively lower, but it's purely because we've added substantial warehousing capacity. Much of it is dedicated to food, and I think any new capacity, any new warehouse takes a certain amount of time to scale up to optimal levels. So going forward, in I think about a couple of years time, once we scale up nationally as per our plans to roll out something like 38 large DCs spread across the length and breadth of the country, I think that is when scale will really start kicking in and it will balance out some of the loss of margin which would have happened this year.
All right. Now, given the fact that, the company is planning an incremental $7.5 million square foot warehousing, this is from Future Supply Chain Solutions. This is over FY19 to 21. Can you tell us how that is going to drive your revenues? What is the outlook on the margins?
As I mentioned, I think we are looking at aggressive growth across sectors within the consumption domain. Food, of course, is an important one. So yes, We added about 3 million already within this financial year, and on top of that I think we are planning, as you said, to add another 7.5 million over the next couple of years. I think what it is going to do, because finally in contract logistics particularly, warehousing is an important input on which the business is driven. So yes, we are looking at reasonably good growth rates of something like 35% CAGR over the next few years to add to our top line.
All right, the company does have an asset-light business model. How will the warehouse capacity addition be done? Will it also be asset-light in terms of expansion?
I think that is one of the fundamental philosophies for FSC. We want to remain asset-light. The warehousing capacity which we are looking at is actually developed by the local developers. So it's not an investment which we make in. Our investment goes in the technology, the material handling equipment, etc., the movable stuff which goes into the warehouse. So yes, it continues to be an asset-light model. I think it enables us to grow rapidly. It imparts agility to our business offering to our customers. So we will continue to be asset-light as far as this warehousing capacity addition is concerned.
Analysts are expecting future supply to grow, more than the CAGR of 30% plus over the next few years. Do you think that with growth in the logistics space being at 15%, future supply can double the industry growth?
I have always believed that logistics as a large sector is a sunshine sector. In fact, even the Niti Aayog report calls the logistics as a sunshine sector. So I am very bullish in terms of some of the growth opportunities which the sector is providing, with multiple things happening around us. I think government has really become serious with GST coming in, and then some of the freight corridors and the road construction being at all-time high. I think this is going to really provide the required fillip. I would probably say that the kind of sectors which we are present in particularly, I think are going to grow even more than 15%. If you look at some of the industry reports, some which we have seen very recently, they speak about 3PL growing at something like 17 to 21%. That's the kind of range which people are looking at. And so if the sector is growing at some of these kind of rates, we believe that achieving a growth of something like 35% is eminently possible for FSC, given our USPs, given our domain expertise which we have acquired in this sector over the last decade or so, given our technology prowess, because I think we believed in deploying the latest and best-in-class technologies. I think with all these things, we believe that we will be able to offer interesting propositions to our new customers to get into the fold of 3PL and contract logistics particularly.
Okay, great to have you on the show, and thanks so much for highlighting which way really is the business shaping up from here. On to an 18-hour exclusive then. Malvinder Singh and Shivinder Singh, the two